Mysterious. Gonna go for my boy Mysterious there. Look at his cheeky little grin on the bottom of the screen. Well, here we go. Looks like this may well be Freeze Mage.
Yeah, that definitely is Freeze Mage.
Definitely is, yeah.
But on the opposition side, you've got a Control Paladin, it looks like, from Boar Control. I mean, I was interested that he had brought Paladin. I didn't know if perhaps it was going to be an anything Paladin, which it may well be. I mean, the Control Paladin technically is anything nowadays.
With Ken, I think maybe it's Nzoth.
Yeah, that was just
I'm not totally sure. I wouldn't want to hedge my bets, but usually you wouldn't run a Ken unless you probably have an Nzoth in there, because sometimes there are just better 6 drops that you might want to include. But this is like again, we're sort of leaning back. I've been playing a lot of Control Dragon Paladin, definitely with the Loot Hoarder. I'm pretty certain this is going to be Nzoth.
So there's going to be a lot of healing in this Paladin deck, and typically when you're trying to burst someone down as this Freeze Mage, you're going to struggle if they're going to keep healing. If they use those Forbidden Healings, they keep kind of using those. The Ivory Knights come into play. It's going to be a case of trying to save that Alexstrasza for a last-minute play, surely.
It really depends, actually, because with this specific Freeze Mage deck, sometimes you can just actually burst from 30 to 0. Remember, that is possible with Emperor Thurician. Depends if he runs Torches. Depends if you make use out of that Frigid Kobold. Is it? No, it's Evolved Kobold. Yeah. Evolved Kobold. But you can burst 30 to 0, or near enough, with pings weaved in there. 28 to 30 damage is definitely not out of the range.
Yeah, for sure. And you've also got to remember that with an Nzoth deck as well, they've got that kind of punch at the end of the game, so they can fill up a board once again. And if you've kind of already used all your Blizzards, or already used all your Frost Novas, then you may struggle to deal with that incoming damage.
I think Boar Control will have in his head the idea that he needs to accelerate his gameplay. Because if you just play this as draw your whole deck and see if you can get to a sort of a 20-something card and Zoth, and the Freeze Mage just ends up freezing it, then burns you down, that's not where you want to be. You can see he's gonna be aggressive. He's not going to save Keeper of Alderman for dealing with Thurician or dealing with Doomsayers, for instance. You need to start to be aggressive here, and I like that buff from Boar Control.
Mysterious's hand is pretty good, though. He's got all of the early card draw. He's got the Emperor if he wants to use it. He just now needs to get some of those burn spells in hand to reduce their costs. I mean, Evolved Kobold is in there, Ice Lance, Frostbolt. That's already 3 keys to the ingredient of your cake. So playing Ice Barrier, I think, is fine here. Just try and reduce some of that incoming damage.
The dream would be getting another Ice Lance, maybe picking up a Torch, or any kind of thing to just use that Emperor Thurician as burn and get them down to that 0 mana as well. Do these decks still run Thurician? Sorry, not Thurician. Blood Mage Thanos.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen Blood Mage Thanos in Freeze Mage decks. I don't think the Kobold has replaced them. I think you can use both of them in combination to get even more spell damage. So yeah, typically they have been running them. Maybe it's something that Mysterious has taken out for something else, but I don't know. I suggest that he's probably gone with the kind of usual meta of Freeze Mage.
Okay, so since this is one of the first times, obviously we saw it a little bit last week as well, but for those guys at home who were maybe watching last season, this is a slightly different version to Freeze Mage. Obviously the Evolved Kobold has come into play. What would you guys say is the typical thing that you would swap out to put that extra 2 spell damage into the deck?
Well, last season they actually didn't run any fireballs at all. You didn't even run Alexstrasza. You just ran straight up, like, attempt to get 30 to 0 burst. This time round, obviously bringing in the Kobold, you actually do see some fireballs in here. Some people take out 1 Torch. Some people take out 1 Blizzard. Sometimes you don't really see Flame Strike in there at all. But you still have the core components. I mean, the core components of a Freeze Mage are always going to be Emperor Thurician, Frost Novas, the 2 Ice Barriers. You don't even sometimes need 2 Ice Barriers. Sometimes you only have 1 Ice Barrier. But
I think that's one of the things that's been removed is Ice Barrier. Often you will just see the 1 being run rather than the 2 traditionally now. So that's probably what Evolved Kobold is kind of replaced here. Looking at Boar Control's hand, he's got plenty of damage on board. But it's what do you play now? Because the Ivory Knight, does it feel a waste against Freeze Mage, or do you just try and get some damage from a spell?
I just go in it, think hopefully I pick up Avenging Wrath. Like, something like that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Maybe even something like a Hammer of Wrath as well. Yeah, just any direct damage would be great for Boar Control.
So he's got a bit of a choice on his hands here. And it's going to be Blessing of Might, so I think that's Blessing of Might.
I suppose in that scenario as well, like we often have that kind of discussion of, do you go for the most useful spell or do you go for the spell with the highest mana cost? When you're on full HP, you can literally just go for the spell that's going to come into play most in this game, which Blessing of Might, I've got to say, probably wasn't the greatest selection of spells.
Yeah, but he does give you the extra 3 burst, which, as long as you've got something on board that isn't frozen. That's the real key then, Munch, though. You need something on board that isn't frozen. And this can get to the point in the game now where blizzards are coming through, frost novas are coming through, where it might be hard to have something on board that isn't frozen or dead.
Yeah.
I'm actually wondering whether Boar Control runs Forbidden Healing in this deck at all, you know, Dan.
Yeah, he may not.
I think he could be running, just in terms of healing, Ragnaros the Light Lord as well as Ragnaros the Fire Lord, as well, and those 2 Ivory Knights and the True Silver Champion.
So the longer that the Novice Engineer is on the board, it's actually playing into the favour of Mysterious. You can kind of just slowly just keep whacking Boar Control, taking that 1 damage off, and actually using the Outdoor Peacekeeper onto Novice Engineer.
What else are you going to use it on apart from Alexstrasza, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're starting to get into not the most comfortable area of the game right now for Mysterious. He doesn't have much in the way of dealing with this board. Obviously he has the Frost Nova in hand, but there's no Doomsayer to combo it with, and isn't finding anything like a Flame Strike right now, so he's starting to actually have to look at that decision of, do I start to use some burn to control the board right now, or do I just accept that I'm going to be taking a lot of damage?
Yeah, I just don't think he can use that burn, because you know that Paladins have got that healing. I think you have to Frost Nova here, but the important thing as a Freeze Mage is not to panic in any situation. There are often very many outs. He's going to be considering how many cards he has left, what's the likelihood of him drawing another Blizzard, a Flame Strike, another Frost Nova perhaps. So the Frost Nova, I think you have to play. You don't want that incoming damage. You don't want to risk your Ice Block being popped just yet.
Your Ice Block getting popped is the most important part.
Starseeker.
That's what I'm finding interesting. This could be a good turn to play Ragnaros, the Fire Lord, as well, because if he's just used Frost Nova and he hasn't got Doomsayer to combo it with, then you probably feel pretty comfortable just landing an 8-drop on board. That does do damage despite being in a frozen capacity. And 8 damage to face, and then Absolute Mysterious might not have the answer, but he doesn't get 8 damage to face regardless.
Blizzard is certainly going to be a nice draw there for Mysterious. Another turn of Breathing Room, but also will clear away some of these minions now. In combination with a ping, would clear everything except for Ragnaros.
I think you just have to accept you're probably going to take 8 damage to face here.
Yeah. Does already have the Ice Block on, so I don't suppose he's too concerned about Help Turtles right now. He's just still looking for that combo, but I think he's just going to be happy with the amount he's managed to remove from the board.
Well, you've got Fireball in hand, so you can deal with Ragnaros the following turn if you need to.
Do you have the artifact?
I think he's going to be reluctant to use that Fireball though. He's going to be looking at trying to get this Emperor as soon as possible with as much spells.
Yeah, but you need to be fairly aware of the fact that you need to have that all within 10 mana.
Well, if he...
Ooh, Alexstrasza, this is good. Just do it. Yeah, just slam it.
Yeah, you definitely just slam it. I hope he doesn't have any healing. And if he did play Emperor, he does have 24 damage in hand, I believe, with the Cabal plus Frostbolt, Ice Lance, Fireball, and Forgotten Torch, which you would have enough mana, I think, after Emperoring.
This is where you take anything can happen, even if it has literally 0 impact.
Of course, yeah. If we... Obviously, we can't see at the moment. I'm not really sure what he is picking.
We'll know once he picks it.
We will know that once he decides.
Do you know what? We'll tweet the ESL Premgrams and get him on it. I thought I'd bring that phrase back.
We were talking about the Premgrams. There it is. So now,
oh, this is a difficult decision.
You've got a pretty tricky one. You've got 2 options in terms of healing, but only one of them really affects it immediately.
So you could use Forbidden Healing straight after this, and you get 8 health back. You could take
you
Holy
also
Light.
Get 8 health for Holy Light, right?
Yeah, you get 8 health from Holy Light, so you might as well take Holy Light if that's going to be the play.
Because then you've still got 2 mana.
And then you could use Equality and then pop his Ice Block. Yeah, I think Holy Light's fine.
It's not an easy decision though. He's going to go for Forbidden Healing instead.
Well, that's interesting.
Looks like does trade away, get rid of Alexstrasza. We'll actually use that Forbidden Healing as well. To heal himself up a little bit. And there is going to be Ice Block popped now. So, Mysterious, he's on the timer. Does have another Ice Block in hand though, so he's not out of time just yet.
If you Emperor now...
Emperor and Ice Block, you've got the damage next turn if the healing doesn't come in. I mean... I think I've done my maths right. I think it's 24 damage.
Well, we will just
you
go.
I'll let you go through it, Keenan.
So they've got 10, it's 14 mana in hand with all of his damage, including Cobalt. And then you take 1 off all of them, which gives you 9 mana total combo.
Yeah, I was going to say it's 9 mana for the total.
Yeah,
combo.
yeah, so 9 mana total combo, and then it's literally 3, 7, 13, 16 plus 4.
It's 24.
Yeah, okay.
24 damage he has in his combo.
We did it, boys.
Oh yeah, because Evolve Cobalt is +2. Yeah. So I was thinking +1 for instance.
I think this is the play he does have to make, and I just pray that there's no more healing coming on through. We can see there isn't right now for ball control, depending on what he draws though.
Oh, this
Ragnaros the Light Lord. However, there are 3 other minions that are damaged on board right
Yeah,
now.
So what I would do...
Trade 2 of them.
Yeah, trade 2 of them in, and then you play Ragnaros the Light Lord Casino Gamble. Oh, no, equality first.
Yeah, I was going to
Equality first,
you
and
still
then...
can't kill your rat. Oh, no, because
everything turns to 1 and it's not
nothing
damaged.
gets healed. Yeah, so your equality first for sure. It depends how scared he is of his current life total. I mean, you should be very scared. There's the equality. Really smart play coming out.
The real ball control.
So he'll put himself up to a nice, healthy, juicy 29.
And also, thanks to Ragnaros, we'll pop that final ice block, and
so an ice lance off the top would be marvellous for Mysterious.
yes, that would be enough to finish things off. This is a frostbolt.
No, that's the mana.
It still does the same as Forgotten Torch.
No, it costs 11 mana at this point.
Yeah, so he's one mana off.
Shot through the heart.
And
Ball control is to blame.
I mean, technically you could survive.
Yeah, you could.
You could Fireball, Rag, Ping, and Frostbolt something.
That does feel pretty awful, though.
But it's awful.
I guess it's better than not. It's better than getting kicked out of the game. That's one way to think about it.
I mean, you can't now.
Time runs out on me.
So Ping Rag, you Frostbolt Ragnaros the Light Lord.
Yeah. Oh,
And then just Forgotten Torch,
Oh, right,
the Ivory Knight, and then...
He's got the 1 mana Frostbolt.
I was worried that Ball Control was just going to think that, like the other Ragnaros, it couldn't attack. I was going to be like, yeah, it can. But of course, he knows better, because he's a professional player.
He did a better play there, to be honest. My play probably cost too much of his burst, which I think at this point he needs more burst in the tank.
And I think as well, looking to get that Roaring Torch down to that burst in a couple of turns, if you can get it. But obviously used a Frostbolt now, so
Still
that
has
burst limited slightly.
He's got 10 mana burst in hand right now with 3 spell power.
Just 27.
So
Let me
he's a little bit off.
And unfortunately doesn't have the same risk on Ice Lance this time, because the Ice Lance would be 1 mana.
And that 1 damage also makes it a lot harder. I guess you
Frost Nova can keep him in the game though.
Yeah, and then you maybe just put Acolyte down. But at this point, like, if you can't do 30 from hand, like, how difficult is it going to be now?
So then you may have to Frost Nova, use a Fireball perhaps. You got to be looking at trying to get him down and just hope that Ragnaros doesn't hit face, but
Never going to be fun. Would you start the turn here just by dropping Acolyte and pinging it yourself, just to search for other answers?
I think the
maybe
ping,
try and find a Doom set.
I think the ping might be important onto the Infested Tauren or face rather than the Acolyte.
So what do you need? You need your Roaring Torches, and you need your Ice Lance, and you need I think Thalnos and Evolve Cobalt to survive.
I think this is right. You do as much damage as you can and hope that both spellbound minions can be removed, so then if you do draw into more burn,
But we know that all this spell damage can just get wiped at the board easily by ball control.
it can, which should seal the game as well for ball control.
Yeah, just about. Does have to kind of throw away a lot of his own board here as well. But I don't suppose he'll be too upset about that situation. Can even drop a cairn afterwards, so he'll certainly still be sitting pretty. And only 2 HP on Mysterious still, let's remember.
I think as board control, you have to be worried about the fact that there's 3 spell damage sitting on board. And you have 24 life total, and you know that it's well within the realms of possibility that he could have a 4-card combo that deals that amount of damage with 3 spell power.
None may steal our souls.
He's gonna secure 8 health to himself as well.
Yeah, I think, well, obviously it wasn't the play we said, but I don't think... Wait, is this...
No.
That's not 30 damage.
6, 12, 15, 18, 24,
Wait.
26, 20, 30. I think it is.
It
it's
is.
30.
Mysterious is definitely
No
counting
way.
it
No
quicker
way.
than I have.
No way! That's ridiculous! He actually manages to get it. This full 30 damage combo.
Oh my word.
There we have it. Well, Mysterious manages to take that one. I'm speechless.
We
Fair play
did
to him.
literally just say the turn before, you have to be worried with 3 spell power on board that there is a way that 4 cards can combo you down from 30 health. That's kind of what the Freeze Mage deck does now. It's not the old Freeze Mage deck. The old Freeze Mage deck literally relied on drawing Alexstrasza and having 15 damage combo. That's kind of what Freeze Mage was before Emperor Therissian. Now Emperor Therissian is involved, you can achieve these massive combos with all of those burn spells getting reduced in mana. I personally, if I'd seen 3 spell damage on board and I was at 24 life total and he had 3 cards in hand, probably would have thought, do I mind, like, equalitying Pyromancer in my own board? I still end up with the Death Rattle of the Infested Tauren, and
There was a cairn in hand to follow it up as well.
It stops his card draw mostly from the Acolyte. He's got rid of all of his spell power. Then there's only 3 cards in hand. Like, how worried am I about that afterwards?
I think you're right. I think it was a pretty greedy play. It's easier, obviously, as casters when we can see what's on the other side, but
Yeah.
I think I'm with you. I think I would have been under the impression that I have to remove that spell damage, because especially if you're going to so confidently put that spell damage on board, you must have some burn in hand. But that is going to be 1-0 to Mysterious. I'm going to move on, and now Boar Control is going to try his luck again with this Paladin, and we're going to be on a Secret Hunter of Mysterious.
We always do this, boys. We always
count out Freeze Mage.
Not even that. We always count out Mysterious. Like, I know Joe didn't, obviously, this time round, but you know, he's the champion of Mysterious.
My boy.
But we always do this, like, and it's like, you know, we put him up against these top players, and we say, oh, well, Mysterious is Mysterious. Like, maybe he'll draw a win or whatever. But that was a really clever play.
It was, yeah.
I mean, it was reliant on having no board clear from board control. But at that point, you have to throw your hands down, don't you?
Can I just point out this ridiculous turn as well that's coming out from Mysterious? Gets the Cloaked Huntress as well as 2 traps with a Secret Keeper on turn 3. That is a ridiculous turn 3. Look at his board right now. He's actually considering not dropping the Explosive Trap. Does go for it.
I mean, we know that board control's got True Silver Champion.
It's quite fortunate that he does, too.
Yeah.
Without it, that could have looked very ugly.
And would you even mind bouncing back your? I would probably wouldn't even mind bouncing back my Acolyte right now just to get rid of the traps. I guess you also want to get rid of the Cloak Huntress because you don't want any more 0 mana traps to come down.
Yeah, that was a quick decision for him, actually, and I don't think it was as easy as Board Control made out by pushing that quickly, because Secret Keeper can build up to a scary sight, but of course you want to get rid of those 0 mana secrets, so...
I think Board Control was worried about the next turn of Eaglehorn Bow into another secret, and then you suddenly have so many different things to contend with.
Although, with Harrison Jones in hand, he may well be happy to let that Eaglehorn Bow go.
True.
Start building up.
Because then you don't worry about your Acolyte at that point, do you? Actually, this is a tough decision. Do you bounce that, knowing that next turn you've got Harrison Jones, and then you bounce it next turn regardless?
I suppose because he can't see the weapon yet, you wouldn't be considering the Harrison Jones at turn 5.
Yeah, true.
I think you would consider it as a possibility, but I don't think you would base your play around them definitely playing an Eaglehorn. That is going to be him bouncing his Acolyte back using that freezing trap, and also gets rid of that trap importantly. But there goes the explosive trap too, but it's not going to be too much of a big deal really in this matchup.
Oh, that's such a tough decision.
It is a really horrible choice. I mean, naturally you would take Call of the Wild just because you know how powerful it is, but
are you thinking about
You're
the snipe?
5 turns away.
exactly.
What to do?
Yeah, but you're also thinking, if I take snipe, is my hand gonna run out too quickly? But I think this is right. You just build up a secret keeper as much as possible and keep jamming that damage in.
I think one question as well, looking at that turn, is obviously it's now 9 mana. Some Hunter decks have started only running 1 Call of the Wild. So then at that point, if he's only running 1 Call of the Wild, it's like, that's my only version of this. And that's such a crucial card in so many situations.
It's a tough turn for ball control now, because you may want to just slam Acolyte down to get it out of the way, expecting that later on you'll be able to recuperate, but we know that gets dealt with by snipe. I personally would want to consecrate here. I know that sounds horrible, but I personally would want to consecrate and get rid of that secret keeper. I'd be too scared of the secret keeper right now.
But I think we learned from last game, ball control fears nothing. He does not clear boards. He just says, I'm sitting pretty on this health total. I don't believe you've got lethal.
It's going to be snipe.
That is a painful turn right there. 5 mana to draw 1 card, essentially.
We get the Aldor coming out, but using Aldor onto your secret keeper and then followed up by a Savannah Highmane the next turn, which you can expect coming out from the Hunter on turn 6. Not going to be nice in ball control.
Look at the health total right now for ball control. Mysterious with no mercy. I think predicting the Harrison Jones there, making sure he uses at least 1 charge of his bow, but also pushing a lot of damage to face. And now ball control. He's taking so much pressure from this secret keeper. Savannah Highmanes are available. Can just continue to slam this into face. This is actually starting to look pretty dicey. Doomsayer in hand, though.
Dicey isn't the word for it. It's
Pure on filth is what the word is, and it's an interesting deck choice for ball control actually, because Enzoth Paladin is kind of fallen out of the meta. It's not really been a top tier deck for a good couple of months now, to be honest.
ball control's got to feel horrible, because if there is just a kill command next turn, you're dead.
Do you have the
So do you?
Yeah.
Do you hit face with your weapon just to get that extra 2 health? I think you have to.
Mysterious. There's plenty of things he can draw here just to push
Savannah.
this further. I was going to say just drop another Savannah. There's not many downsides to it at this point in the game, really. And just the fact that Mysterious has had the opportunity to go turn 6, turn 7, both Savannahs, like, that's so much of a threat to deal with. Like, both of the death rattles on top of everything else.
It's going to be frustrating for him as well, because he was probably thinking he had a nice turn of being able to hit down that 1/5 Savannah, and then he's got Consecrate to deal with the 2/2s that come out. But with another Savannah on board, that's just an immediate threat that he can't really deal with. So it's whether he just deals with that 6/5, then uses the Consecrate and leaves the 1/3 that's going to be on board, because it's not as much of an immediate threat. But something like an Equality next turn would be extremely useful. I mean, he's got Enzoth, but
I'm just thinking if any, he can do maximum 3 damage to the enemy board with the Wild Pyromancer and the Consecrate. This is a really difficult turn. I don't even know if there are any good ways out of this.
I honestly think you just have to...
You have to deal with the 6 damage.
You trade out onto the big Jaime and then possibly use Consecrate.
Consecrate and then Doomsayer.
Well, there is the Consecrate, and the decision is Acolyte or Doomsayer. So that's the decision. But again, just a kill command off the top would win this one for Mysterious. Cloaked Huntress gives him a nice 3 secrets. Means he can play every single card and a hero power here.
I mean, at this point, why not? I suppose you don't have to.
I mean, you don't play Huntress because of Doomsayer, obviously.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah, but I mean, you might as well play both the secrets.
Yeah.
Since there's a Doomsayer on board, it feels a little bit silly to go for the Cloaked Huntress, all things considered. However, looking over at Boar Control's hand, you know, There's still these two hyenas on board to deal with. He has to remove this board to stay in the game. He has an infested Tauren as something just to put up a roadblock at this point.
Speak to me.
You need to play the infested Tauren, and you hope that you draw Ivory Knight or whatever else healing you have in the deck.
Now anything.
That's lethal, right?
That's enough, I think.
Yeah, that's
3
lethal.
extra damage means that the hyenas can trade straight on into face. With a hero power on top of everything else, that is going to be the second one on the trot now for Mysterious. So he's moving on to his third deck already, rushing this one out. I'm trying to think what his third deck was.
I believe it's Warrior.
It's Warrior, I think.
So last week he brought Enzoth Warrior. So perhaps he might favour that once again. But he did bring Enzoth Hunter last time, but this week he's brought Secret Hunter. So I like these changing things up.
So it depends what kind of warrior it is. If this is a straight-up control warrior, Boar Control actually might be able to get a win with this Paladin. Because Paladin in general has always been favoured against Control Warrior because... Control Warrior. But just generally because you were able to slam threats over and over again.
And I mean, people are doing this. They're starting to bring decks to target Control Warrior because they know it is the weaker, as such, of the lineups that we get in Conquest currently. That's why people are bringing Freeze Mage, to be honest, because Freeze Mage can do all right against Control Warrior if you can kind of get out nice and early. But
well, what are you talking about, Dan?
I have no idea. I meant Shaman, I did not mean Warrior whatsoever.
It's like
Freeze Mage does awful against Control Warrior.
You just pulled Nick Scoundrel where you just said something that you didn't mean, and then you realise you said you didn't mean it, then you carry on trying to say it.
If I say it with enough
Freeze Mage is
conviction,
good
then it becomes
against
correct,
Shaman,
right?
Daniel, not Warrior.
No, Freeze Mage, you're right. Freeze Mage, that's why people started playing it, because against mid-range Shaman, especially with the Bloodless variant, if you're just freezing the board over and over again, they don't run any healing, you can eventually just win.
And it's why Frozen has brought a Priest to his deck in the last call of USA to target Control Warrior, because actually Priest does do well against Control Warrior, especially if it's as greedy as the one he's chosen anyway.
Is that the Thoughtsteal one?
It's got 2 mind controls in it.
Oh my word. Yeah, I mean, that is a pure anti-Control Warrior Priest deck. Obviously, there was a time where I was running Priest on on ladder because all it was just Control Warriors. Ran double Thoughtsteal, Shifting Shades, all that kind of stuff, just because steal as many cards as possible.
I got destroyed by Shifting Shades earlier today. I was playing Enzoth Hunter. First of all, I got by a Shifting Shade Ragnaros and then a Shifting Shade N'Zoth. It was the best day of my life.
Hail him out. So what has Boar Control got? Because if he wins this game, which to be honest he should be favoured to do so, what has he got left in the tank?
Druid and Hunter.
Hunter might struggle, Druid could do okay. All of them could beat Control Warrior though. He goes straight up to flood this board. I think at this point, trying to say, what you want to do as Paladin is you want to try and force a Brawl out as early as possible, and as the game progresses you actually stop using your hero power because you don't want to play into Brawl as much. But that turn 6 just to guard True Heart is going to be a real problem here for Boar Control because tank ups are going to start, and that's very early here for Mysterious. It just depends whether Mysterious wants to start playing stuff or just continue to tank up.
And at least being in the deck really makes me think that he has brought it just to target Control Warrior. But we've seen people, and by people I mean Hello Leroy, bringing decks to target a specific deck many a time, and it hasn't really worked out for them, because in this situation he's faced the 2 decks that he didn't want to face early on.
How tempted you as Boar Control now to do nothing this turn? Not even hero power, just go face.
Pretty tempted.
I'm pretty tempted. I don't even think you need a hero power. You've got enough on board that could force a Brawl. This could literally just be a nothing turn. Yeah.
Nothing turn it is, and there's the second Brawl.
And at this point of Mysterious, you're probably thinking, I might have to think about brawling soon, because...
Nope.
Nope.
Also a nothing turn. Both players
Infested Tauren though.
playing this cautiously.
You could play Infested Tauren.
I think I'd be happy playing Infested Tauren just because it does drop something else in a Brawl situation, but he might just...
You don't need to play anything apart from stopping yourself from overdrawing. There isn't that much else to think about playing. I think I'm fine to play Infested Tauren here because A, it drops something if Brawl goes through, and B, you wanted to die anyway because of N'Zoth. So,
yeah. And C, you're bringing out a Brawl, and you want to be bringing out the Brawls, to be honest.
I wouldn't hero power though, because I want one to survive. So. Now Mysterious, you're going to have to think about doing it soon. And this is the pressure that Boar Control can put on as mid-range Paladin.
Well, one question for
Or
Mysterious
Paladin,
is, do you allow this for one extra turn to activate your Avengers before trying to stack up armor? Is that an option available, or is that just far too greedy?
Too greedy, probably, for me. I mean, I completely see where you're coming from. Maybe I can hold the brawl as long as possible, but I just feel like it's so greedy. You know...
I definitely agree that it's too greedy. Just wanted to be devil's advocate and offer that as a...
Yeah, I mean, you could have, like, Ivory Knight into like, Blessing of Might, and suddenly things start to get real dicey.
So Mysterious still refusing to use a brawl here.
I mean, this is just going to result in Mysterious getting pressured like crazy. Next turn, he's going to have to use a card, right? He's got 9 cards in hand. He's going to have to use a card next turn.
So I wonder whether Boar Control's going to put something on board to try and threaten lethal next turn, or whether he's just going to be happy with this board. I mean, personally, I don't think you need to.
I think playing lethal order is fine, because next turn I think you threaten lethal with Consecrate. You have to brawl at this point, I think, Mysterious. This is what Paladin does. You just slam down threats before Warrior can have responses. I actually would have been tempted to use a Shield Slam earlier. If I was going to hold on Brawl for so long, I would have been tempted to use Shield Slam earlier.
I think when we saw the second Brawl come out very early on, I would have been tempted to start to consider using a Brawl basically from that point. When you know that you at least have the other one available should the threats continue, but has dropped one of the Brawls now, so it's down to Boar Control to see how much he actually wants to commit to the board once again. This is the point in the game as well where it's like, you know, do you expect the second Brawl already?
Well, hasn't quite got below Revenge range here, which is it's worked out so nicely for Boar Control because he could slam everything into face and it still plays around Revenge. Boar Control's gonna, Mysterious is gonna slam that Gromash. It just still feels really tough right now for Mysterious.
Yeah, but I think we've all been in that game where you're against a Control Warrior. You've got them pretty low. It's all been looking fantastic, but then with Justica True Heart in play, there's always the chance that the Warrior comes back in. There's always the chance that you just don't quite have enough to finish things off. So,
and this is an interesting decision for Boar Control. Does he just go face, or does he kill off Grom? Because if another rule came through and Grom survived, even if it's just a 1/6, still kind of annoying.
I think you continue to go face.
Yeah, I would be tempted with the face decision. It's just...
And I'd be half tempted to play Sylvanas as well, because if you are going to force out that other Brawl, that's one way to do it. And it means that after that Brawl's come down, your Enzoth has already got 3 minions to bring back, and then you've already got board presence.
It's not like the... I would be tempted with Sylvanas as well, actually. It's not like the Warrior's got his own Sylvanas directly, and he could just...
I just want to quickly point out that he trades into the Gromash at the end of the turn there purely not to enable Revenge.
Very, very clever.
Nice.
So how much damage has Boar Control got here? He's got 9, 11,
13.
13.
Concentrate. With Concentrate?
With Concentrate, he's got...
You've got a lot with Concentrate.
Boar Control's got... Doesn't have to play a card this turn. Again, he doesn't want to proc Revenge. This is awkward because it's pretty obvious now that Mysterious has definitely got Revenges in hand.
I wonder.
Do you just Aldo Peacekeeper the Cairn and say, go on then?
I think so. Eldor the Cairn, continue to go face, continue the pressure. I mean, you're still hitting for, what, 11 a turn?
Mm. I don't think you proc Revenge range, though.
I wonder.
Because, like Joe said, the worst thing against a Control Warrior is if you proc Revenge range and then they just tank up and armor up and shield up and suddenly they have a shed load of pseudo health in the form of armor, but they can still get all the benefit of having below 13 HP.
I have no time for games.
Sylvanas actually being used here as well, so committing more heavily to the board than what we've seen. But I actually quite like the Sylvanas here, just because if another Brawl does come out at this point and Sylvanas herself doesn't win it, if your opponent does win, you get a minion.
So Boar Control actually was doing this, I think this might even be Unzoth Warrior as well.
Yeah.
Boar Control was actually talking to me about last week, and I talked about something where he didn't go face, and he said, I was playing around Revenge. So now I'm really keen on looking around when he plays around Revenge. And obviously it's quite obvious this time round, he's definitely playing around Revenge.
I mean, especially if you're playing around double Revenge, or there's a possible 6 damage clear of a board, that's just disgusting, to be fair.
Problem is you can't double revenge now though because Sylvanas is in play, and if you double revenge, I think you just kill your own cairn and then Sylvanas steals the...
Has to play something. He's got 10 cards in hand, so can't just pass the... well, I mean, realistically, passing the turn at this point, I think you just lose the game. Needs to do something.
He's got
The question
execute.
is what?
I mean, he can deal with stuff.
Could possibly look at going for Shield Slam. I was going to say Shield Slam onto Sylvanas. You've got Ravage Ghoul and Revenge, so you could finish things off across the board, and you'd be able to deal with...
True Silver and Consecrate. How much is that? True Silver plus Sylvanas is 9, 12, 16. It's not enough, is it? Soon TM. You can probably play True Silver quite happily here, because if he plays Harrison, he's just going to cycle through more cards, but...
If Mysterious hadn't have Shield Slammed there,
me
Boar Control would have had lethal.
Yeah. I mean, he's so desperate to hold onto that Brawl for the Unzoth, which he knows is coming.
This is such a tricky... I think also, this is such a difficult decision for Ball Control, because it's like, when do I allow myself to commit to pushing face here? Looks like the decision is now. He's activating those Revenges. Getting to the point where it's all or nothing for Ball Control. Let's remember as well, Ball Control, if he loses this game, he is out of the series 3-0. But if he can win this series, he has guaranteed his qualification for Comic-Con. He'll be going 5-0 this season. But right now, Mysterious is not looking to allow that to happen.
So at this point, Ball Control's like, well, if he's got Revenges, he's got Revenges.
Yeah, because he's going to have to sacrifice his own cairn if he's going to use those Revenges anyway. Especially when you've got 6 damage just coming straight out of your hand, you're more than happy to commit now.
Because he gets into a point now where True Silver, without a tank up, threatens lethal. So there's limited. You've got 8 mana really to play with, as opposed to 10. We know that at least one Revenge is coming down.
Yeah.
And I think Ball Control has now considered this. This might be going to a fatigue matchup. So if Revenge comes through, you only draw 1 card from your Acolyte and you get rid of it. Which is why we might see Ravaging Ghoul come down from Mysterious, just to accelerate card draw.
Does also have that Harrison Jones in hand as well if he is worried about that True Silver charge.
And I think the Ravaging Ghoul as well is basically saying, please steal my 3-3 instead of my 4-5. Doesn't get it though. That would have meant that the Revenge just completely clears the enemy board. Not ideal for him. Considering dropping another Ravaging Ghoul here. And actually just going to Shield Slam as well as Armor up. So actually a really nice turn coming out from Mysterious there. Still holds on to both Revenge. Actually completely clears all of the threats from the board. And now he's the one that actually has some presence.
And he's got card draw advantage at this point, I think. But
It's 1-off lethal for Ball Control.
yeah, but he could draw something from Ivory Knight like a Avenging Wrath.
Yep. Or, well, Hammer of Wrath would actually be lethal.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few outs here. Blessing of Might, Blessing of Kings, Avenging
they're both
Wrath.
full well, Avenging Wrath wouldn't because that's next turn.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
You wouldn't have the mana for it this
True.
turn, but
Seal of Champions.
yeah, I think you go for the Ivory Knight play here. There is
sure.
several spells that can win you the game.
I always look at your screen, by the way, Dan. I've actually got one right in front of me.
Well, we're used to just having it on the middle
That's
one.
very
aren't we?
true.
You used to have it. They were the days.
Way back when.
Spring season, boys.
Spring season. It's because I like looking at you at the same time, Dan.
Move quickly.
Well,
One eye on
decisions
Dan, one eye on the screen.
for Ball Control. Looks like he might even just play Tyrion here.
It's interesting. I think I would have been tempted to go for the outs of winning this turn.
I guess at 2-0 down, he may consider that being too much of a risk.
Also, he stops himself from drawing cards, or at least tries to do as well.
Also, we did see Ball Control basically lost the first game in this series for being greedy. So at
Yeah.
this stage, I can't say I blame him for playing much more carefully. Well, N'Zoth has now finally been found for Mysterious.
I guess Ball Control says I can deal a total of 3 damage over 3 turns with the
What now?
Ashbringer if you don't want to use Harrison on it. So
He also, well, he's got 7 damage next turn. If Tyrion dies, which he will from the Doomsayer anyway, with Consecrate, he has lethal with the
Yeah.
with Mysterious armoring up.
If Mysterious doesn't play Harrison. But Mysterious...
But that would mean Mysterious would have to kill the Tyrion first, right?
Yeah.
Which I think you do, because you aren't going to want that.
So what do you do to kill it first? You have to execute, I would guess.
Yeah, trade both in and execute. Unfortunately, as well, it does mean that you sacrifice your Harrison to the Doomsayer. Which is not overly fun, but needs must.
Time's running out for Mysterious, and he isn't going to execute it, which will mean that Ball Control will have the damage from the Consecrate and the Ashbringer to win this.
I think Mysterious probably just couldn't figure out what to do, to
I
be
mean,
honest.
it was a really difficult turn, and sometimes you do just run out of time. And he's been doing that for the past few turns, where he's just trying to work out how he was going to stay alive, and then you've spent so much of your turn working out how long you're going to stay alive, you can't think about how you put presence on the board.
So Mysterious made it pretty obvious with that Ravaging Ghoul play that his game plan was, maybe I take this to Fatigue now, I just draw as many cards as I can from the Acolyte. Because Ball Control was like, well, if this goes to Fatigue and he uses Revenge here, I only get one card from Acolyte anyway, which isn't that awful. But Mysterious is like, well, no, I'll draw as many cards from that as possible. Tyrion comes down, Mysterious is on low HP. To not die, he essentially has to use Harrison. So that's thrown the previous game plan that he had right out the window.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think clever. I mean, I personally, I still would have gone for the outs of getting Blessing of Might, Seal of Champions, Blessing of Kings, but
And that's just down to your own mentality.
That's my own mentality.
I would have gone for the same.
I'm aggressive. I like to be aggressive with my plays, but Ball Control said, well, actually, what I'm doing here is I'm putting on a threat that kills him anyway. If he doesn't clear it and doesn't use Harrison, then I win anyway. Plenty of mind games played by Ball Control there. Very, very good turn. And obviously, like we said, that was a matchup that was favoured for that Paladin. Paladins in general, Control Paladins are favoured against Control Warrior matchups, and it's pretty good for him.
Well, two Fiery War Axes form Mysterious early on, which is always good, but I mean, against what we can tell now is a Malygos Druid from Ball Control, sometimes those don't come into play early on. And I know last week Ball Control did bring Yogg Druid, actually. He had Yogg still in his Malygos. We didn't see it. I saw a cheeky deck list today.
You saw a cheeky deck list today.
That was from last week, though. He may have given up on praying to Yogg this week.
So this is a matchup that having Fiery War Axe isn't as impactful in. The only thing it really is super impactful in is if there is a Maya Keeper or something along those lines. The issue for Ball Control is going to be is he has a limited amount of burst, so you can't really totally rely on just your Malygos win condition here.
Yeah, I mean, during the first couple of weeks, this was a matchup that we saw quite often, and traditionally the Control Warrior was winning it because they were just getting out of range of that Malygos burst. So Mysterious is in pretty good shape here, but it's about putting those threats on the board, getting those removals to a point where you can then drop 8/8s, and there being no answer, so you can then shove that damage into face.
Sure. The N'Zoth Warrior as well will be slightly favoured against the Druid, because if you flood the board with big, high damage threats that N'Zoth can do, Druid can't clear boards. The one weakness of Druid as a class is it does not have board clear.
Unless he is still running Yogg, and then there is always that possibility.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, but Yogg is not a reliable board clear, especially now.
I mean, a lot of people are still running it though, because it still can do crazy things.
I totally, for one card, for the chance to turn a game around, would totally run it.
I mean, I prefer now Deathwing. I would rather see people running Deathwing than Yogg.
Because what?
Guaranteed board clear.
Yeah, but you have to. Yogg can be played in a hand where you.
It can, yes. So it's kind of that last ditch attempt, but.
I think in a lot of scenarios, though, that's kind of how you see Yogg used. But I think as well, this is another one of those scenarios where it's very much a variance dependent on your personal mentality, how you prefer to play the game. But
there he is, boys.
We are going to see Staghelm come down.
Yogg's around.
Ball Control's thinking about the Living Roots and Power of the Wild play, but obviously he's now just realised that Brawl is a real issue.
So is Power of the Wild, did that come from like a Raven Idol, or is that just
No, that's
okay, so it's a token Malygos. So that would let it kind of favour a little bit more against Control Warrior, like because you can build up board several more times and you don't necessarily have to worry about just the impact of Malygos damage.
Ball Control's going to, unfortunately, be met with the unhappy realization that Brawl is a thing.
Brawl is a card that exists. Yep, and also there's a Shield Slam available. If Vandrel does win out the Brawl, there's still an answer here for Mysterious to finish it off. Vandrel does win as well. Now you've got to bring up the question, do you actually use the Shield Slam? Would you commit that?
Yes.
If he does use the Shield Slam, spectacular, you get 2 Arcane Giants next turn. And you've just seen a Shield Slam. Do you play 2 8/8s? You've just seen a Brawl and a Shield Slam.
I would totally play 2 8/8s.
I mean, depending what he gets off the top here.
Slam the 8/8s, boys.
8/8s.
Arcane Giant? Sounds good. I'm down for that.
4 mana 7/7. I like a 4 mana 8/8.
I think at this point you play Sylvanas and just say, well,
I have no time for
Fingers
games.
crossed, lol.
I'm taking one of them.
Even just going with the Blood Tuica just to have that minion, hoping to top deck and execute, I think, here.
I think the Boar Control is saying, well, if I keep him... because you go face with 16 damage. There is literally no other play that you make.
Well, yeah, I mean, you clear board, you lose only rate 8,
Yeah.
so that's no fun for anyone except for Mysterious.
It's fine, you play Yogg next turn for double Pyroblast to face and win the game.
Yeah.
Then we're all happy.
He's even going to Moonglade to play around the 2 mana execute. He gets one of the best. That's one of the best 6/6 in terms of stat values you can get, really.
6/6 is great. There are 6/7s. As Joe saw me get several of today from my
Shout out to Boulder Fist.
yeah, to the Ogre.
And that warrior one that I can never remember the name of.
Mog.
Sea Reaver or something.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I thought you meant Mog Roar Elite or something, but...
Okay, so Mysterious now. Do you bash one of these 8/8s and then
What, trade Sylvanas
and then you trade Sylvanas?
and
Or
get a clean...
you either get an 8/8 or a 6/6. Is there a way of guaranteeing yourself an 8/8?
Yes, because you can bash and use your Fiery War Axe, followed by Ravaging Ghoul, trade your 2/2 in, trade Sylvanas in, and then you get the clean 8/8, and you have board control. But it is a lot. It's basically using everything you
Use
have.
like your entire hand. So, Justicar Trueheart doesn't seem like a bad shout.
I mean, you've also got to be worried about Malygos, right?
You do.
Because it's coming to turn 10. If you were just sitting on 13 health, and you're staring against a possible 8/8 as well as Malygos double Moonfire, well,
Boar Control has got... Well, let's have a look. Feral Rage, 4 damage, plus 2 damage from Moonfire.
he's got 16. So I believe he's one off. No, wait.
He's got Malygos next turn.
No, it's... Yeah.
I just go face. You've got Malygos. Oh, no, that doesn't instantaneously win you the game, does it?
No, Yogg does.
Plus.
Well, this is a really tough decision, actually.
I would be half tempted to just Moonfire. No, because I've got Malygos. I don't want to Moonfire. Tough decision, actually, because tank up next turn. You have to kind of almost hope that you draw Living Roots next turn, right?
Time waits for no one.
Which you could.
You could.
He's going to take out Justicar, though. He wants to keep the board presence. He's seen both Brawls. He's seen his Shield Slam. Hasn't seen an Execute yet, though.
For sure. I think as Mysterious, you could just... You could know, because you want to tank up. You can't Slam Grommash this turn.
You could just... you could trade the 8/8s, Ravager Ghoul and Bash, gets you some extra armor.
Yeah.
On top of tank up, you're actually looking fairly healthy moving into the next turn.
Yeah, and you have a Ravaging Ghoul left on board. That means that Boar Control likely just straight up plays Yogg next turn if he doesn't draw Living Roots.
Because otherwise, Mysterious is going to get too far out of range,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you have the risk of like Astral Communion, and then you're going to get rid of
Your win condition.
your win condition. But at the same time, Mysterious can just start edging away.
I think this is now or never from Boar Control. He's got probably 2 turns, and if he doesn't draw lethal within 2 turns, Mysterious takes the game.
I mean, it's good from Boar Control to be able to keep Mysterious down so low. I mean, the Justicar was huge for Mysterious. Just think, if Justicar had been down lower, is he going to take more damage?
He's going to do it?
Okay.
Okay.
Means he gets to drop his barns. We'll see what actually comes out from that.
But the Ravaging Ghoul. That's
Not ideal.
So greedy, in my opinion.
Oh, Wrath doesn't help.
Wrath doesn't punish it.
No.
So he gets away with it.
So his Yogg is about an 8 or 9 spell Yogg, if I'm not mistaken.
I wish Yogg actually said how many spells.
Well, that's what
played.
Arcane Giant's there for, to be a little
Yeah.
counter for us, but he's already played them. Oh, Yogg will come down. The nerfed Yogg doesn't kill himself straight away, though.
It's not a bad start for him, actually, to be honest.
Already dropping that mage secret. Spot one.
Wait, did Yogg just... Yeah, Yogg just silenced itself and drew a card. But he did get swipe off the top.
He did. So if you are confused why Yogg only casted 3 spells when I said he should cast 9, it's because now, since the nerf, any silence or removal of Yogg from the board stops all of his spells, which I know most of you will know because you're all pros. But there might be one little person who doesn't.
Shield Slam off the top is a massive, massive draw for Mysterious.
Yeah, and I think this has been one of the most comfortable turns for Mysterious in quite some time. He actually just has... It's almost like a set-out sequence of plays that just make sense.
And you can tell by the speed of which has what he done it, because I mean, last game he was taking so long that he was roping to a point where he just didn't know what he was doing. There's Moonfire.
That's 12 damage though.
But do you just throw Malygos, both Moonfires, put as much damage as you can, have Malygos as a threat?
He's got... like,
Because if Malygos then survives, you have Swipe to follow up. And he's even going to use one of these Moonfires to take down the 3/3 just so that it will stay on board.
because there's 9 damage for that, it just requires another 3 damage from the warrior. This means that, you know, Grandmaster won't clear it. Ravaging Ghoul won't clear it. And with Swipe in hand... That's no, because obviously you can't play Cannon. He's probably just going to activate Grom and say, well, if you don't have the damage to kill me, you don't have the damage to kill me.
But he does though, right? It should be lethal.
With Wrath.
Swipe plus hero power plus Malygos, I believe, is 14 damage.
Yeah, he's definitely got the damage to kill him.
Bada bing. Bada bing, bada boom. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be going even in this series after Mysterious manages to take a 2-0 lead. Ball control has done the exact same to it. We've evened things up. It's going to be 2 apiece now as we move into this 5th game in this best of 5. Mysterious was so close to taking this one clean against ball control. He's not been allowed to do so.
And that was the important one as well. I think it's Hunter left for ball control now, and if that's something, a relatively aggressive Hunter deck, it could definitely take down this control warrior, and suddenly Mysterious is going to be ruining the day that he did not beat Malygos Druid with a slightly favourable matchup, I'd say.
Yeah, I think Ball Control played it very, very well. I mean, also the cards he drew were fantastic. I mean, he baited the Brawl out. I think he knew Brawl would be coming following that Vandal play. Straight into the 2/8/8s. Don't have Execute, don't have Shield Slam. I've seen you use Shield Slam. I mean, he was gifted by multiple really good elements of sort of RNG. But it's fine. That's kind of what happens in Hearthstone, and you make the best of it. And Ball Control made the best of it and made some excellent plays afterwards to make sure he secured it.
I think there as well, there was a couple of turns from Mysterious that were fairly greedy coming out.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
for example, using the Fiery Warwicks instead of the Bash. And there was a couple of situations like that game where he was kind of playing with fire, really. He was kind of saying, maybe you don't have lethal, which I think is a risky question to ask in all games.
I think it's a game of bluffs, right? He was like, I can see like you're playing like you think you have lethal, but I don't think you have lethal. And it's I guess he was playing the game that his game plan was always going to be, I can stretch this out and I can get to a point where my low health total is not going to matter. But Ball Control just, you know, he made plays that I wouldn't have made. You know, I would have saved the whole Malygos combo until I was sure I had lethal, but he made sure that there wasn't 9 damage on board for Hella Leroy. Hella Leroy for Mysterious. Like, I said this 3 times today. I was talking to Joe about this matchup. I was like, Hella Leroy. I was like, oh no, that's Mysterious.
Ball Control opting to keep Savannah Highmane in his opponent. and
Pretty important card against the warrior, though.
gets Ragnaros as well. Tracking, we didn't even get 6. He picked it so quickly. Just takes Kindly Grandmother. Wants to get something on the board, nice and early. Do you think this will be ends off Hunter coming out of ball control?
Maybe.
Or do you think it's just the kind of traditional mid-range?
You kind of just run kind of Grandmother in all Hunter decks these days, so... I think by not attacking the Kindly Grandmother, you make ball control think that Ravaging Ghoul is a thing, but we can see that Ravaging Ghoul is not a thing. And Misha was probably the worst outcome for him, with the sense that Ravaging Ghoul could have been devastating. But it wasn't devastating, because he didn't have it.
Well, you're not wrong. Here you go. Ball control now.
Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome.
You're not wrong.
Nice early pressure coming out from ball control. And, unfortunate with the Misha, with the Leok, I think.
Huffer,
would have been nice, but
Ravaging Ghoul's pretty sick here, because essentially you contest the 3-2 from Kindly Grandmother and deal with Leok.
the trouble is going to be when that Savannah high main does come down, and that is why ball control has kept it from this mulligan. And it's going to be whether it gets to a point where Mysterious draws something like a Justicar, which will help him just keep out of range. But if she is in the bottom, maybe only 15 cards of his deck, he could struggle here. But we do see Brawl, we do see Revenge. There is a lot of tools for him to work with.
GQ Commander 3-3 and just play something like Freezing Trap or Snipe? Or just Hero Power?
I think... I was going to say I'd be tempted to kill Commander 3-3 just to keep the board presence, but you know that like things like Fiery War Axe do exist, so probably Snipe for sure. And it's a choice of Hero Power or Freezing Trap. He's gone for the Hero Power just because you want to keep doing as much damage as possible.
I think he's saying I need the kill command for that 5 bursts. Absolutely 100%. So you could coin out Cairn, or you could shield block and armor up. But he's going to be partial to the Cairn play. Also kind of punishes Snipe too.
I think also just gives you some actual presence on board, you know. The shield block armor up play, while you do get some extra temporary health, you also don't really have that much going for yourself when it comes to those trades. Could look towards trading with a Revenge here. Even could use... You could set yourself up here, use Fiery War Axe as well as trade, and then you can Revenge to kill the 2/2s.
That's a really, really solid play, Munchables, and that's probably what I would be thinking to do. I would use the Fiery War Axe, trade into face. I know it puts me down to 10, but I could armor up to 12, and then I deal with the hyenas with the Revenge because I put myself below 13.
Well, we saw how well ball control was playing around Revenge before, so perhaps Mysterious has to do it himself.
But also, if you look at ball control's hand, if this high main is just dealt with, there's really not a lot of follow-up. Next turn, you're not going to be able to drop the Ragnaros. 2 Freezing Traps, a Hero Power, and a Kill Command. Not really the greatest set of options.
Well,
Mysterious not wanting to go for the Revenge play right now.
this is going to be a fairly punishing play coming out from ball control, because it means that Revenge play won't be as easy to do now with the fact that Freezing Trap is on board for the Cairn.
And depressingly as well, he is exactly 1 HP away from activating that Revenge.
Yeah, this has been played really nicely. I actually much preferred your play. I guess Munchables at this point you have to take that risk because you've just been you've been pressured so hard. I probably would have been like, I clear the board, get ball control back in my favour, and then I always have something to try and contest later.
I think the downside of the play I suggested as well is that obviously we know there wasn't a real follow-up the next turn with ball control.
But
if there was another Savannah High Main, or you know, there's a multitude of other Hunter cards that are just sticky, just difficult to get rid of with the amount of death rattles that Hunters run these days.
This is basically game.
He has 16 damage next turn. So it means that Mysterious has to just use the bash to stay alive.
I think he knows that too. So Boar Control. I mean, he could go for the 50-50 with Ragnaros and then follow up next turn with Kill Command. I mean, if you get the 50-50 with Ragnaros this turn, you win.
Yeah. Well, you.
No, you don't. No, you're one off. But you guarantee with Kill Command next turn.
And I think with the fact that you are one off, I fully agree with just taking out the 2-2 guarantee and then you hit the face, but just because...
There's Justicar, but just a little bit too late.
No executes, no shield slams, no nothing. This is game for Boar Control. And someone got the prediction spot on.
Hey-oo.
Bada bing. Well, Mysterious still going to be searching for an answer here, but I don't think he's going to be able to find one.
Do you know what that also means? That also means that Boar Control has 100% guaranteed his spot at finals. So welcome our first finalist.
Indeed.
And quite rightly too, as our previous champion from spring season.
And he's played incredibly well all season at 5-0. Kind of puts a little bit of pressure on Hello Leroy to perform the same.
Yeah, I'd definitely say that's fair. And let's bear in mind as well, Hello Leroy was our first seed last season. He's set himself par now. He's got to try and match that. But